We'll call us to order. Kelly, would you please do a roll call?
Collins.
Here.
Merle.
Here, barely.
Neese. Here. Mason.
Here.
Topliff.
Here. All right, we have a quorum. Please stand. Dear God, as we gather this evening, we ask that you influence our hearts and minds so that we govern this city fairly and justly. We thank you for the many blessings you have bestowed on our community, and we ask your continued protection upon our city staff and crews. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item is the consent agenda.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Up next is the public hearing. Mayor, do you want to open it?
Yes, at this time, we'll open the public hearing for the fiscal year 2025 budget, utility rates, and the TIP budgets.
So Mayor, we did receive some written comments and they will be made part of the record.
All right, I appreciate that.
All right, the floor is open to the next speaker. When you approach the podium, please state your name and home address. You will have 5 minutes to address council.
Okay, we have no public comment at this time, so we will move to the next item on the agenda.
Next item is recognition of guests. First guest, we have Charles Dickens. Charles, are you here? All right, Charles is not here. Next item is ordinances. Bill 4778 to become ordinance 4778, second reading. An ordinance terminating tax increment financing within the US Highway 63 bypass tax increment finance redevelopment area number 3, dissolving the special allocation fund thereto and authorizing certain actions relating thereto.
Make a motion to approve Bill 4778 to become ordinance 4778, second reading.
I second.
Okay. Sam, do you have anything to say?
Just a reminder, this bill is to actually terminate a tax increment financing district that has been inactive for several years. So with closure of that, we will notify the taxing entities through the county that if they can stop distributing some of those sales taxes to those jurisdictions for the TIF, and we will revert those back to the organizations where they were going to.
But what jurisdictions were those, Sam?
All of the generally sales tax supported entities, so county,
School districts?
Yeah.
School district gets
That's
property
part of the
tax, so.
TIF, correct.
So it's basically city, county. I think there's
Much smaller. Than
Yeah.
six.
Yeah.
There's some amount that like they have to distribute based on current taxing.
And this is, yeah, and this district is around like the Walgreens area.
Yep.
Okay.
and then a little bit north, and then spreads west a little bit on the north side of the
Okay.
bypass.
Sounds good.
Yep.
All right, no further discussion, Kelly?
Collins,
Yes.
Merle,
Yes.
Neese,
Yes.
Mason,
Yes.
Topliff.
Yes.
All right, next item, Bill 4779 to become ordinance 4779, first reading. An ordinance approving the adoption of the tax increment financing TIF number 2 budget for the fiscal year beginning January 1, 2025 and ending December 31, 2025.
Motion to approve Bill 4779 to become ordinance 4779, first reading.
Second.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I am really happy to be here tonight to be able to kick off phase 1 of budget approvals. So as you guys might notice, and I pointed out in our executive summary, in previous years, there's always been 3 tax increment financing districts that we approved budgets for. Tax increment financing number 1, so TIF 1, was actually terminated last year We're gonna finish that one up this year in 2024, so there's no new budget for next year. It's gone. You guys just approved TIF number 3 to go away, so we're really just left with one. So this is a budget approval for just one TIF, that is TIF number 2. So if I could say 1, 2, 3 and just really shell game it, that would be awesome, right? So even though we used to have 3 TIFs, now you will see there's only one of them, and it is TIF number 2.
We'll stop calling them TIF numbers.
I know, it'll be so nice.
So,
Just the TIF, should be great.
yeah.
Kelly?
Collins,
Yes.
Merle,
Yes.
Neese,
Yes.
Neeson.
Yes.
Topliff.
Yes.
All right, next bill is Bill 4780 to become ordinance 4780, first reading. An ordinance increasing electric rates for customers of the city of West Plains, Missouri.
Motion to approve Bill 4780 to become ordinance 4780, first reading.
I second.
All right, I'll give one brief update on all the utility rates instead of saying the exact same thing over and over for each of them. So we had our work session on September 23rd, where we talked about some of the needs and the upcoming budget requirements for each of the utilities. Based on that, we developed the utility rates, which we also discussed at that time. So electric will be going up 7%, water will be going up 3%, sewer will be going up 4%, and sanitation will be going up 3%. So we've got 7, 3, 4, 3. More numbers. We did, of course, publish for the public hearing that we just had. We published that in the paper on October 2nd. So just if anybody needs that date as well.
No, budget time is always tough. And it's tough to be on this side of the table looking at the rate increases. But then knowing if we don't make them, but we're looking at cutting services. And I don't think we need to be that drastic yet. So I understand we're getting closer to like budget billing possibly.
Yes, we're hoping. I actually even spoke to our utility billing supervisor about that earlier today, about what our next steps look like for rolling that out in 2025. So
Yeah.
hope we're really, really close there.
Let me know when.
You bet.
Now, what was that, Mayor, with budget billing?
Yeah, where they average your electric
Oh,
bill
okay.
over the year or your
Mhm.
utility
Yeah.
bill.
Yeah.
So that way you can at least budget
Budget
how much it's going
yeah.
to be.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah.
much like Summit Gas does that.
Mhm.
So as far as budgeting goes, it helps, you know, it's where it's gonna be at.
I had a call today from a citizen that was concerned about the raises again this year, and she stopped short of asking, when are they gonna stop raising the rates? So I don't know if it would be prudent for our PR people to put a note up to the public to say why we still have to do this. Some of it's determined by DNR. And our electric, I was talking with Sam this afternoon, it's because our electric rate goes up because we're charged more. But our citizens, I don't think, understand that.
Yep, I talked with our PR specialist today, and once we get through, honestly, the second reading, because things could change between the first reading, the second reading, when rates and the budget is finally approved, depending on feedback from you guys. But once that's all kind of been passed, we'll work on getting some information out to residents. You'll notice as you're looking through the budget a little bit later on, we've got some big projects in each of those utilities coming up, including the rebuild of one of our generation units, which is a $3 million project. And so that's really important for our electrical grid, just whenever those peak energy usage times are high and we're called on by the Southwest Power Pool to run those generation units. At the end of the day, it saves our residents money from having to pay peak utility rate usages. So if we can bring those peak times down, that really helps on the pocketbooks. And so you saw after the winter storm of a couple of years ago, several cities were slapped with some pretty high electric bills. We were not one of those because we happen to have those generation units on hand. And so one of those is currently not operational. And so we need to get that rebuilt next year. And then depending on how that process goes, we might be able to sell some of that excess power back to the grid. which can result in either additional savings or other capital projects down the line, or, lower rates in the future. But it's hard to promise that there won't be any more rate increases just because of all of the regulations, as you mentioned, that come down from either Department of Energy or Department of Natural Resources, EPA, all of those entities, kind of come to bear whenever we put our budget numbers together for the next fiscal year. And when we look at our capital plan for the 5 years out.
I think as long as we keep our public aware, and
Mhm.
us, me better knowledgeable of it, where I can answer questions like that, I think that would go a long, long way. For
Yep.
Yeah.
people to understand.
Agreed. All right, Kelly?
Collins,
Yes.
Merle,
Yes.
Nice,
Yes.
Neeson,
Yes.
Topliff.
Yes.
Next bill. Bill 4781 to become ordinance 4781, first reading. An ordinance increasing water rates for customers of the city of West Plains, Missouri.
Motion to approve Bill 4781 to become ordinance 4781, first reading.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion on this? Kelly?
Collins,
Yes.
Merle,
Yes.
Nice,
Yes.
Neeson,
Yes.
Topliff.
Yes.
Next bill. Bill 4782 to become ordinance 4782, first reading. An ordinance increasing sewer rates for customers of the city of West Plains, Missouri.
Motion to approve Bill 4782 to become ordinance 4782, first reading.
Second.
Now, on the sewer side, we have some major projects on that too, to start getting us in line with DNR.
Yes. Long story short,
yes.
our wastewater treatment plant has to undergo some upgrades long-term, but in the short term, in order to remain in compliance with our consent order through them, we have to include some projects in the next fiscal year for sewage treatment and storage during especially high weather events. What we saw in the past were overflows that could have been prevented through some different designs. So we've had a company design the plant upgrades for us, but we understand that those costs are going to be north of $40 million easily. And so we are talking about some pretty substantial rate increases at that point. So we don't have to do anything right away. So what we're trying to do is chip away at some of the smaller projects, both on the water and wastewater side, to be able to reduce the amount of water that we have to treat, both at the water plant and the wastewater treatment plant. And so once we're able to get those projects going, key projects that I think so far have been successful are the detention basins at Galloway and North Fork. Those have been lifesavers if you talk to our plant manager or plant superintendent, because even with some of the heavy rains that we had this year, we did not see the overflows that we would have seen had those detention basins not been put in. So we're doing our best to find those dollars, especially grant related, wherever we can. So on the stormwater side, there's grants left and right for that. When it comes to water and wastewater, there are fewer grants available. There are a lot of low-cost loan options out there for cities to take advantage of, which is an option we might pursue in the future. But I've spoken with Burns and McDonnell, our engineer that helped come up with the wastewater design study. We're going to plan to have them come in probably sometime after the first of the year, just to give everybody an update on our integrated management plan process and some of the projects where they fit in with the overall long-term plan to make the improvements to the system that we need to make in order to stay in compliance with regulations, obviously, and provide safe drinking water for our residents and those further on down the creek.
Kelly?
Collins,
Yes.
Merle,
Yes.
Nice,
Yes.
Neeson,
Yes.
Topliff.
Yes.
Next bill. Bill 4783 to become ordinance 4783, first reading. An ordinance increasing sanitation rates for customers of the city of West Plains, Missouri.
Motion to approve Bill 4783 to become ordinance 4783, first reading.
Second.
Nothing new. surprise, surprise, we're increasing rates. This one is the 3%.
3%.
Yep. And this covers, like Sam was mentioning, we've got big projects on almost all the funds. This one is we're transitioning to some of those different types of loading dump trucks. So this is one of those trucks and the related dumpsters. So we're doing part of it in 2025, the next part in 2026, if everything holds steady and we don't have any other pressing needs before then. So that's kind of the big thing in sanitation next year.
Yeah, that'll be interesting.
Yeah, it will.
Kelly?
Collins,
Yes.
Merle,
Yes.
Nice,
Yes.
Neeson,
Yes.
Topliff.
Yes.
Next bill. Bill 4784 to become ordinance 4784, first reading. An ordinance of the city of West Plains approving the adoption of the budget for the fiscal year beginning January 1, 2025 and ending December 31st, 2025.
Motion to approve Bill 4784 to become ordinance 4784, first reading.
Second.
All right, so this is the full budget, pretty much for everything other than the TIF. We had our work session again on September 23rd, published the public notice or the notice for the public to be able to speak tonight on the budget. We didn't hear anybody, though I hear that there were some who wrote in. The only changes from the proposed budget that we discussed in September are a couple of small personnel things. So some in the Civic Center budget and some in the fire budget. The total increase is about 14,000, and that's just related to a few promotions that we had not previously been anticipating for the next year. So we often budget personnel based off of where they're at and any increases that we anticipate before the end of the year. So somebody's going to be getting a step increase. But these particular promotions we had not anticipated. So, but it's a very, I think, a fairly small percentage. We did hear after we sent this budget document out to you guys, did hear back on our health insurance, and it is actually going to be a little bit less of an increase than what we anticipated. So I do think that the 14,000 will end up being covered with some savings there. But of course, we didn't have that information before we published this one, so this is what we got.
What's good, it's going down then.
Oh, it's not going down. It's just less.
Yeah, there you go. That's still a better way to go.
It is.
It is.
All right. Kelly?
Collins,
Yes.
Merle,
Yes.
Nice,
Yes.
Neeson.
Yes.
Topliff.
Yes.
Next bill.
Thank you, Carolina.
Bill 4785 to become ordinance 4785, first reading. An ordinance of the city of West Plains, Missouri, amending chapter 10 of the municipal code by the addition of a new article and several new provisions pertaining to alarm systems.
Motion to approve Bill 4785 to become ordinance 4785, first reading.
Second.
Hello, Chief.
Hello, sir. Council and Mayor, I appreciate the opportunity. Staff is asking for consideration for a update on our alarm ordinance. I don't know if they've got it yet. This serves really two purposes. Officers would be asked if they go to an alarm to classify it false or valid. Examples of false alarms would be employee errors, malfunctioning. Things that are valid would be power outages and actually intrusion. The report will be run monthly, and if appropriate, an ordinance will be sent. I can get the next slide. Like I said, the ordinance does two things, two major issues. One is alarm registration. We currently, if they deal with an alarm company, they're responsible to keep updates on who to contact, who the owners are, who to contact after hours. But there are many alarms in the system that we do not have that information. So we got an active alarm when we have no one's answering their phone, there's no contact, and it takes additional time for the officers to sit there at the call. Normal alarm call requires two officers. Repeated alarms, it's like everything else. Officers tend to get a little complacent, which is a safety issue for the officers, especially the alarms that we have that routinely go off and they were classified as false. Upon the monitoring, a monthly check of the false alarms will be done. And we really feel with this being done, the alarm owners, the people who own the alarms will be a little bit more accountable. If they know they could be fined if they go in excess of the number of alarms that they're allotted. I did some quick figuring. Hit the next slide. I did the last 3 years. August 21 to the end of July in 22, we had 437 alarms. If the ordinance was in play, there would be 52 violations in that year. From August 1st, 22 to July 31st, 2023, we had 444 alarms. And we would have had 27 violations if we followed the ordinance as it's written. And in this past year, August 1st, 23 to July 31st, 24, I got a typo there. We had 330 alarms with 11 violations. So those would have been the violations. The way they're set up for the fourth and subsequent false alarm by any alarm system within a 30-day period, it's $100 for each alarm after that fourth one. And in a 12-month period, it'll be the 13th, and all subsequent alarms after that 13th would be $100 each as well. So we feel the ordinance will get our officers back on the street a little quicker. It holds people accountable a little bit. For example, we have people who put an intrusion alarm in with motion detectors, and then they go get a dog. Or they put balloons in the window, and when the balloons move, the alarm goes off. So it gets them to think about, we don't want the police department to continue responding to alarms, so they'll start maintaining those alarms. It's easy to put an alarm system in, but it's a monthly maintenance thing that you have to do to make sure that your detection things are working fine, that when a storm hits, the windows don't vibrate and set off detectors and things like that. So there's a little bit more responsibility in putting an alarm system in town. So questions?
Chief, will those costs cover the costs?
You know, I'm not real concerned with the costs as much as the accountability of the people who own the alarms. The cost comes with people know, hey, I've had 3 this month, I'm gonna get $100 tag. They're gonna fix their system. Whereas now they don't. The one with 52, there was one business in town that until I called her and told them, we're no longer responding to your alarms, it would go off once or twice a day. So it got to the point where it was, you know, they were checking it, but they couldn't figure out what the problem was, but they kept it active. And I said, you either need to turn it off because we're no longer responding until it gets fixed. And so, but we have several businesses in town that repeatedly hire people, don't teach them, the employees, how to set the alarms or what to do when they come into the business. And this just gives some accountability for them to be responsible for that alarm. So
How's the fine collected or charged? Is it through the
we
utility?
would send an invoice and typical with anything else, and then they would send the fine in. So. Thanks. Other questions? I think we're good. Kelly?
Collins,
Yes.
Merle,
Yes.
Neese,
Yes.
Neeson,
Yes.
Tofflet.
Yes.
All right, no council action. So Sam?
Just a few items for you this evening, Mayor and Council. We heard from a contractor today. We expect Capital Construction to start overpass work on November 11th, and that's probably the same day that detours will go up. So if that date changes, we will certainly let you and the public know. But at this point, that's the latest and greatest that we know, as we're looking at November 11th for work on the overpass to actually start. Second item, several October events planned at our library. So including some trick or treat things, some Halloween pumpkin decorating contests. So we encourage our public to visit their Facebook page, stop by the library, figure out what's going on, have some fun. And then last item we have on November 6th at 11 o'clock, we're going to be doing a dedication up at the Welcome Center for the newest sculpture that we have that honors some of our West Plains residents and their baseball successes. So we invite the public to come out again. That's going to be on November 6th at 11 o'clock at the Welcome Center, and we'll also be serving hot dogs that day, so you can swing by and pay for your hot dog from Andy's Hot Dogs. So they won't be free.
Cracker Jack.
We figured we would probably put a theme together. So kudos to Todd, Melissa,
We come back.
and the planning team for all their efforts in making that project come to fruition as well. So,
Is City Hall open November 11th?
no, we will not be open, but we will, some of us will be there. Yep. Anything I can answer? All right. Appreciate your time.
We have Halloween coming up, the 31st. That'll be fun. And it is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, so wear your pink.
Yep.
No further business.